This is the last time we'll be meeting.
You don't listen, do you? You just ask the same questions every week. How's your job? Are you having any negative thoughts? All I have are negative thoughts.
That was a look at one of this year's most highly anticipated films, Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix. With more on this and other films hitting the theaters this weekend, I want to bring in Richard Crouse, film critic and host of Pop Life. Everyone is talking about this movie. It seems to be very polarizing. Some people don't want to see it, don't even want to read about it. Other people see the creative genius behind it.
Yeah, this is a movie that, I mean, has divided people a little bit. And it's divided people who haven't even seen it yet, who have read a little bit about it. I mean, it's open everywhere today, but I saw it a month ago, probably. At TIFF. And, you know, it's a film that redefines a character that we all thought we knew from the Batman television series when Cesar Romero played him, and then when Jack Nicholson played him in the Tim Burton film, and then Heath Ledger, and then, of course, from the comic books. It redefines him for a new, more chaotic, more cynical generation. Joaquin Phoenix plays, for most of the film, about 90% of the film, plays Arthur Fleck, who is a guy who lives in New York with his mother. He's in his mid-40s. He wants to be a stand-up comic, but he is hobbled by some personality disorders. He is someone who is ignored by people. He is someone who can't seem to stop being the cigarette butt under society's heel. And eventually, he gets tired of it. And eventually, he starts to morph into this character of the Joker. And becomes an agent of chaos, essentially. And that part of that section of the film is quite short. This really is an origin film. But make no mistake, this is not a superhero movie. This has some elements of, you know, the story that leads up into the first Batman movie, the Michael Keaton Batman movie. There's some elements that sort of would dovetail into that. But this is not a superhero movie. This is a horror film about cynicism, about the social safety nets falling away that look after people like Arthur Fleck. There's a lot going on here. And, you know, some people have complained that the movie makes him a sympathetic character. I think we finally see now the Joker as a well-rounded character, as someone who we see where he came from and why he turned to the life that he had.
And some people just don't want to see something so dark and so disturbing.
It is dark, and there are moments in this film that are truly unpleasant. But by design.
By design.
Yeah.
You gave it?
I gave it 4 to 5 stars.
Okay, interesting. All right, Sometimes, Always, Never.
This is Bill Nighy playing a Scrabble master, a master of words who can't seem to find the right things to say to his sons, one of whom disappeared many years before after an argument after a Scrabble game. And so when a body shows up that may or may not be the son, he goes to have a look at it. When it turns out that it's not his son, he then comes across a player online where he plays Scrabble who seems to have the same moves and the same kind of vocabulary and everything else as his late son, and he tries to investigate that aspect of the story. And this is a movie that sounds like maybe a little bit too quirky, a little bit too dark. It's not. It's kind of a whimsical take on grief, and Bill Nighy, as always, is great. So I give this one 3.5.
All right, the next movie is Robbery.
I like this movie. This is a small movie about a man who owes a very bad casino owner, a whole lot of money. And she wants it, and he doesn't know how to get it, so he decides to do a big heist to get the money. Trouble is, he doesn't really know how to do it. He has a life of crime. He knocks over convenience stores and things. So he turns to his father, who was a hardened criminal for many, many decades. Trouble is, he has dementia now, so he can remember all the details of things that happened many years before, but in the present only can remember things for a few minutes. So you have here a family drama and a heist story. This movie has more heart than most heist films. It has more intrigue than most family dramas. And Art Hindle gives, I think, a career best performance here. So I give it 3.5 out of 5 stars.
I didn't recognize him at first. Okay, we've got a few seconds left, so we can fit in The Laundromat.
This is a Steven Soderbergh film that takes on shell companies. How do shell companies work? What are they? It is based on what they say, actual secrets. So based on a number of different stories that have been wedged together, mostly around the Panama Papers, a story that broke a number of years ago. Meryl Streep plays a woman whose husband is killed tragically, and then she tries to collect on the insurance only to find out that those two that we just saw on screen, these two Panamanian lawyers played by Gary Oldman and Antonio Banderas, have created shell company after shell company after shell company that makes this insurance policy virtually worthless. And it is a wide-reaching story that I think probably goes a little bit too far in trying to cover absolutely everything that we need to know. But like movies like The Big Short and things like that, that use humor to tell very complex financial stories, this movie does that, but not quite as effectively. I give it 2.5 out of 5 stars.
Okay, with Meryl Streep, 2.5 stars. My goodness. Richard Crouse, great to see you.
Nice
Thank you so much. Richard is our film critic and the host of Pop Life, and you can watch Pop Life with Richard Saturday night at 8:30 and again on Sundays at 2:30 Eastern right here on CTV News Channel.